Hello friends, today we are going to see what are differences between exception and error. In Java programming, we are learning exception handling, and most of the time we are facing one question: what is exception and what is error? In today's video, we are going to understand difference between them. We are also going to check their parent class and how parent class is useful for error as well as exception. So please watch this video till the end and give your comment at the end. So let us try to understand difference between exception and error. Hello friends, we have seen exception handling and some videos on it. We have learned exception handling through programs. We understood that how to handle the exception, what are the different types of exception. But in this video, we are going to talk about something different. In most of the time, in interview, we have to face a question: what is difference between exception and error? In this video, we are going to cover what is difference between exception and error. So let us try to understand from its parent class. Throwable is a parent class for both exception and error. So the name itself, the throwable name itself suggests it has a capability to get thrown. Generally we are using this word. Throwable is an object or it's something that we can throw. Okay. And this throwable is a class that gives capability to get thrown. So throwable is a class which is derived from object class. Now object class is parent class for all Java classes. Throwable is derived from object class, and throwable class gives capability to its object so that it can be thrown. Already we have seen some programs regarding exception handling. We are using something like try and catch. So in catch block we are catching exception. So what we can catch, which is something thrown. Here you can see the throwable class. Throwable class gives a capability to get object thrown. And then only we can use try, catch and finally blocks because of the throwable class. What is more about throwable class? Now it is a parent class for both. All exception classes are derived from throwable. Not only that, all errors are also thrown from the program, and therefore errors and exceptions, they are derived from throwable class. But we cannot use throwable class directly. Why? Because throwable class is an abstract class. Now we can understand what is abstract class. I'm going to post a separate video to understand abstract class. For the time being, abstract class is a class which cannot create its own object. That means throwable cannot create its own object on its own. So throwable class can be used only for inheritance purpose. It can create its childs, and then we can use the childs of throwable class, but we cannot use directly throwable class as it is abstract class. Now this is about throwable class. All three different capabilities. Number one, object can be thrown. It is possible because of throwable class. It is parent class for both exceptions and error, and throwable is an abstract class. So this is about throwable class. Now let us move towards our actual topic. That is, we are going to understand what is error. Error is a child of throwable class. Now what is error? Whenever a problem occurs because of lack of system resources, at the time error occurs. And what is exception? Whenever there is a logical problem in your program, at the time exception occurs. So both error and exception looks like similar, but they are totally different. Error is because of something lack of system resources. There is no relation of error with the program. On the other hand, Exception is caused because of your program, and programmer is totally responsible for the exception. Let us try to understand the difference between error and exception in detail. Okay, let us begin with the first one. Why error occurs? Error occurs because of lack of system resources. So it may be because of you are trying to use a memory and that much memory is not available. Now memory is not in programmer's hand. How much memory you should have? Programmer is not responsible for it. In that case, we need to contact with system administrator. So errors are occurred because of system resources. You can take another example. You are trying to run a Java program and your JVM is not working properly. JVM is not installed, Java virtual machine. So without JVM, we cannot run the Java program and programmer can't do anything in this case. Unless we are using another version of JVM, this program cannot be recovered. So exception is something different from error. Error occurs because of lack of resources, system resources. On the other hand, exception occurs because of a logical problem in your program. So exception occurs because of logic used in your program, and therefore one more difference we can say, programmer is not responsible for error, but programmer is solely responsible for the exception. Whatever logic you are using in a program, it may create an exception, and exception is the responsibility of programmer. Now once it is defined that it's a responsibility of programmer to overcome exceptions is also a part of programmer. And one more difference we can see, programmatically we cannot handle error, or programmer cannot handle the errors. On the other hand, programmer can handle exceptions. Lot of exception classes are available in Java. We can use these classes to handle the exceptions. We can use try, we can use catch, we can use finally block, and all those things we have already seen in a previous program. If you don't know how to handle exception, how to use a catch block or how to use a finally block, please go and watch our previous videos. Those are related with exception handling. Now once we are defining that exception has to be handled by programmer and error cannot be handled by programmer, to handle the error we have to contact with system administrator because it is related to system resources. The last difference between exception and error is that error occurs only at runtime. When you are running a program, at that time error occurs because of lack of resources. As far as exceptions are concerned, there are two types of exception. Some exception occurs at the time of compiling the program. They are known as checked exceptions. Exception handling is a technique for programmer. Some exceptions, some classes are defined in such a way that programmer has to handle exceptions, and it's a compulsory, it's a mandatory for programmer, and such exceptions are known as checked exceptions. For example, IO exception. Any class that uses IO exception class, it is declared that class throws IO exception, and therefore once you are writing a code for input and output operations, at that time handling IO exception becomes compulsory for programmer. Second type of exception is runtime exception that occurs at runtime. For example, arithmetic exception that we have seen. If you haven't watched that video, please go to the comment and watch the video that explains how arithmetic exception is handled. So two types of exceptions. Checked exceptions, these are compile time exceptions. Programmer must handle before compilation of the program. And runtime exceptions, now it's an optional part, but it is highly recommended to handle all runtime exceptions also. To avoid the program crash at runtime, programmer has to handle all types of exceptions. So these differences are useful for a programmer. Exception and error, they are totally different. Error is because of system problems, whereas exception is related to program. So please understand these differences. and we are going to talk about what is checked exception and unchecked exception in more detail in our next video. So I hope this video is useful for all of you, and all of you can understand what is exception, how to handle exception, and how to use exception handling in Java programming. Thank you very much for watching this video. Put your comment below this video if you have got some value from the video. Your comments are valuable for me so that I can make more videos on this. Thank you.